Hi there everyone, and welcome back to another walkthrough series. In this video we're going to be talking about reading passage 3, the follow-up after the last video which I have published. So yeah, reading passage 3 is about educating psych, and therefore we also have questions that are 27th to 30. There are multiple choice questions that where they follow the order, and I'm gonna put a floating note over here. I'm gonna rename that. I'm gonna rename that later on. So MCQ questions, they always follow the order from the passage. So once you find the answer for the question number 1, I mean in our case it's number 27, once you find the first one, you will have an easy opportunity to follow to find the rest of them. So for reading passage 3, because it's argumentative and opinion based, I highly suggest to read the question first instead of literally focusing on the answers, as well as they're going to keep you in confusion, right? They'll confuse you, they'll misguide you, because the options are really similar, and they're academically paraphrased. So we know that the reading passage 3 is argumentative and opinion based. Therefore, we also have to understand that this multiple choice question could be indirect or direct kind of a question. Direct is when there is sentence question. I mean, we will have to find a sentence ending, whereas sometimes we will have a question mark at the end of the test. I mean, question statements and stuff like that. So the first question, we will first of all pay attention to that. Educating psych is mainly concerned. So let me actually choose a different color. I'm not really of a fan of for that. So yeah. All right, so educating psych is mainly concerned with something. Lozanov's theory claims that when we try to remember things, so he argues that when we remember things, we will have something. All right. Okay, when we remember things. In the passage, the author uses the examples of a book and a lecture to illustrate that. So he uses an example of a book and a lecture. Lozanov's claims that teachers should train students to something. We're not really sure what. All right, so should train students. All right. Educating Psych by Bernie Neville is a book which looks at radical new approaches to learning, describing the effects of emotion, imagination, and unconscious on learning. One theory discussed in the book is proposed by George Lozanov, which focuses on the power of suggestion. All right, so the book literally suggests. So the book by Bernie Neville, which is Educating Psych, is literally about basically completely new way of learning. However, there's one part, it says, for example, kind of a chapter taken from George Lozanov that discusses the power of suggestion, and that is their focus. So basically, mainly, so it's saying mainly concerned. It's asking what is overall the book about, Educating Psych, right? So the power of suggestion and learning would not really be the correct option. However, we still have it, which focuses on the part of a suggestion. But this, which is focusing, is focusing on the word one theory discussed. So one theory is a part of a theory, but however, the 95% of the theory could be only about learning. I mean, only about learning in a completely new way. It's in our case, it says radical new approaches. Radical means completely. So the power of suggestion and learning would not be correct answer. A particular technique for learning based on emotions? No, there wasn't any techniques. The effects of emotions on the imagination and the unconscious. Also, see, option number C could also be the correct option, but however, no, still mainly concerned. It's not mainly concerned about effects of emotion. It is a part. It learns it learns about how emotion can affect on our learning, imagination, and unconscious on learning. So there's a description about it. All right. So, but it's not also about that. But we have a George Lozanov that focuses on the power of suggestion. So, however, the final option for us would definitely suit our needs. In our case, it's going to be way of learning which are not traditional. Not traditional means radical new approaches. So Lozanov's instructional technique is based on the evidence that the connections made in the brain through unconscious processing, and where he calls non-specific mental reactivity, are more durable than those made through conscious processing. So conscious processing is less significant in terms of learning when it comes to, in comparison to unconscious processing. And so therefore he's saying that besides laboratory evidence for this, we know from our experience that we often remember things that we have perceived peripherally. So it's basically saying that we remember things that are not important. Long after we have forgotten what we set out to learn, we think of a book we studied months or years ago, we will find it easier to recall peripheral details. So we remember the not insignificant part of a book. It is there are color, binding, typeface in the table at the library where we sat while studying it. Then the content on which we were concentrating. If we think of a lecture we listened to with great concentration, we will recall the lecturer's appearance. This is number one, and mannerisms. All right, so we will mannerisms and our place at the auditorium, and the failure of air conditioning where people had different kinds of sense, I guess, much more easily than the ideas we went to learn. Even if these peripheral details are a bit elusive, they come back readily in hypnosis, or when we relive the event imaginatively, as in psychodrama. The details of the content of the lecture, on the other hand, seem to have gone forever. All right. So question number 28. Lozanov's theory claims that when we try to remember things. All right. So Lozanov claimed. Lozanov pretty much, when he said, when he says Lozanov's instructional technique is based on the evidence that the connections made through the unconscious processing are more durable than conscious processing. Then he continues to explain that we know from our experience that we often remember things that we have perceived peripherally. So this means that when we try to remember things, our brains find it difficult to remember connections between the things which we want to learn, but find it easier to recall connections between the unimportant things that we do not try to learn, right? So therefore, the answer A is the answer for us. Highlight it. I guess I'm gonna change the color as well, so because it's not really visually available. Let me choose that. All right, there we go. So, concentrating hard produces the best results. No, it wasn't discussing anything about that. Nowhere near. The most significant facts are most easily recalled. No, although that is the opposite. Difficult things are difficult to remember. Peripheral vision is not important. There was no anything about regarding the importance of peripheral vision. In this passage, the author uses the examples of a book and a lecture to illustrate that. All right. As you can see from the passage, we already found the information for the first one and the second one. And the answers are really following, right? So we have to make sure we know this beforehand. So once again, in this passage, the author uses the examples of a book and a lecture to illustrate that. All right. However, if we think of a book we studied over months or years, we found so this is the first one. If we think of a book, this is the first one. I'm gonna change the color once again. If we think of a book, that's the first one, and we recall lecturer's appearance. That's number 2. So therefore, a book and a lecture. He says that if we think of a book we studied months or years ago, we find it easier to recall peripheral details than the content on which we were concentrating. If we think of a lecture we listened to with great concentration, we will recall the lecturer's appearance and mannerisms much more easily than the ideas we want to learn. Both examples indicate that we recall unimportant things more easily than when we try to remember things we intend to learn. So therefore, Lozanov's theory is being supported. So both of these are important for developing concentration. No, He's not saying both of them are important. No, his theory about methods of learning is valid. So that is the option. This option is the most super suitable for our case. Reading is better technique for learning. No, he's not talking about that. We can remember things more easily under hypnosis. Although he's not really mentioning about hypnosis. He's just saying that when they come back readily in hypnosis, but they're not under hypnosis. All right. Okay. So number 30, Lozanov's claim that the teachers should train students too. This phenomenon. All right. So let's say this phenomenon can be partly attributed to the common counterproductive approach to study. So common counterproductive approach is known to be all right. So it's known to be making extreme efforts to memorize, tensing muscles, inducing fatigue. But it also simply reflects the way the brain functions. So Lozanov therefore made indirect suggestion. So he made indirect suggestion or instruction, I'm reading this part, central to his teaching system. In Suggestopedia, as he called his method, consciousness is shifted away from the curriculum. That means it is just literally gone. It's shifted away from the curriculum to focus on something peripheral. So, according to the answers, according to the passage and the answers, if you compare that, memorize details to the curriculum, no. Develop their own sets of indirect instructions. Think about something that other than the curriculum content. But the most obvious answer is literally C. Let me actually highlight what is wrong. Okay, so you always have to face such technical issues, right? So think about something other than the curriculum content. So this means that this part, indirect suggestion, as he called his method, consciousness is shifted away. It is just gone from the curriculum to focus on something peripheral. The curriculum then becomes a peripheral and is dealt with by the reserve capacity of the brain. So when a student focuses on something that is not important, the curriculum becomes unimportant, and that unimportance is dealt with what is saved within the memory of a brain. All right. So therefore, this means he suggests making the curriculum peripheral by focusing something else in order to remember the curriculum better. So right. So the most suitable answer in our case is think about something other than the curriculum content. So there you go, guys. We answered we already answered the multiple choice questions. Now we're gonna go for the true false not given. True false not given. Yet again, true false not given questions are always in order. We have to remember that. When it comes to looking for the answers for true false not given or true false not given, when you find the first answer, when you find this part, okay. So let me actually remove that. In the examples of Suggestopedic teaching on the fourth paragraph, the only variable that changes is the music. All right. So when you find the answer for the question number 31, the rest of them will just follow along. All right. So it's going to be easier for you to navigate through the answers. So now the Suggestopedic approach to foreign language provides a good illustration in its most recent variant in 1980. It consists of reading vocabulary and text while the class is listening to music. So all right. So he also says the Suggestopedic approach to foreign language learning provides a good illustration. In its most recent variant, it consists of reading a vocabulary and the text while the class is listening to music. So the first session is in two parts. In the first part, so let me choose a different color for that once again. I guess I'm gonna choose that. Somehow I love it. In the first part, the music is classical. It is classical, and the teacher reads the text slowly and solemnly with attention to the dynamics of the music. The students follow their text in their books. So students follow their books, follow the text in their books. This is followed by several minutes of silence. And the second part, so there we go. We have a second part. Once again, I'm going to highlight it with another color. I'm going to approach it with another color. So I'm going to choose 8, I guess. Yellow. They listen to Baroque music, or maybe Baroque music, Bach, Corelli, Handel, while the teacher reads the text in a normal speaking voice. So in this case, in the second part, the teacher speaks in a normal speaks a normal pace. During this time, they have their books closed. So basically they have their books closed during the whole of this session. Their attention is passive. The attention is passive, and they listen to the music but make no attempt to learn the material. So they listen to the music. They make no attempt to learn material. The only variable I would say let me actually bring this back over here. So I would say that this is the answer for this is definitely false, because it's not really answering about. I mean, not really. It's not saying that it is the only variable, because in the first part, because it's not the music that it changes. In the first part, teacher reads the text solemnly and attention to the dynamics of the music. The students follow the text, the textbooks. I mean, the text in their books, right? So, and in addition, the paragraph also tells us in the first part, follow the textbooks, but the second part, they have their books closed. So, first one open book, second one closed book. Basically, that means it's not the music that it changes, not only a music, but also the book, right? So that would definitely be the option number false. And false option will be the most suitable, 100%. Prior to the Suggestopedia class, students are made aware that language experience will be demanding. So language experience will be demanding, so it's going to be hard, as it says for us. So I'm going to choose once again the different color. Language experience is going to be hard prior to Suggestopedia class. All right. Beforehand, there we go. Beforehand, the students have been carefully prepared for the language learning experience. So beforehand, the students have been carefully prepared for the language learning experience through meeting with the staff and satisfied students. They developed the expectation that learning will be easy and pleasant, and that they will successfully learn several hundred words of the foreign language during the class. So there we go. That is the answer for us, and I would say that 100%. Once again, it is false. It is not going to be difficult. Once again, it's going to be in the reverse order. It is the reverse version. I mean, not order. It is saying that it's going to be easy. It's not going to be hard, right? It's going to be easy. It's going to be pleasant, and it's obviously going to lead to a successful way of learning several hundred words. All right. In the follow-up class, the teaching activities are similar to those used in unconventional classes. In a preliminary talk, the teacher introduces them to the material to be covered, but does not teach it. Likewise, the students are instructed not to try to learn it during this introduction. Some hours after the two-part session, so some hours, blah, 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 there is a follow-up class. There we go. We found the answer for that one as well. I mean, we found the location of it. Follow-up class at which the students are stimulated to recall the material presented. So they are students are stimulated. Okay, well, once again, the approach is indirect. Students do not focus on their attention on trying to remember the vocabulary, but focus on using the language to communicate. So in the follow-up class, teaching activities are similar to those used in conventional classes. All right, and he's saying that so basically students do not focus their attention to. They don't shift their focus on remembering the vocabulary, but focus on using the language to communicate with, for example, with games or improvised dramatizations. Such methods are not unusual. So there we go. We have methods are not unusual in teaching. So that basically means that they are similar, right? Similar to those. They are similar to those in conventional classes. They are not unusual in language teaching. All right. So what is distinctive in the Suggestopedic method? So basically, question number 33 is going to be true because similar to means not unusual, and yeah, so like these kinds of methods are not unusual in language teaching. So it is as conventional as it can get. As an indirect benefit, students notice improvements in their memory. We remember that I guess in there's a follow-up class, right? I guess there was a passage when we learned about the benefits. I mean, wasn't really a benefit. As an indirect benefit, students notice improvements in their memory. It's said that, okay, let's just read it. The learning of the material, I guess it was over here, but no, it's not really there. All right, so the learning of the material is assumed to be automatic and effortless, accomplished while listening to music. The teacher's task is to assist the students to apply what they have learned very consciously. And let me change the color once again to the orange. And in doing so, to make it easily accessible to consciousness. Another difference from the conventional teaching is that the evidence students can learn 100 new words of a foreign language during suggestopedic session, as well as grammar and idiom. So that basically means that students can learn 1,000 new words of a foreign language during suggestopedic session, but is it actually saying it's a benefit? No, I would say no. So that's totally not given. But because it's not saying. Whoops, let me remove that. Because it is not saying that if it is a benefit, it is just a part. It is just a part of that. It's just a part of learning through that process, which that only distinguishes it from conventional teaching, right? There you go. They can learn 1,000 new words. So, however, as an in blah blah blah. Okay, teachers say they prefer Suggestopedia to traditional approaches to language teaching. So they prefer Suggestopedia to traditional approaches to language teaching. All right. If you remember, we were told somewhere that students are able to emulate. Where was that? I read it somewhere around here. All right, so let's go. Let's go with the questions. However, I guess Lozanov's experience with teaching by indirect suggestion during sleep, hypnosis, and trance states, but found such procedures unnecessary. But it found it unnecessary. Hypnosis, yoga, silver mind control, religious ceremonies, and faith or healing are all situated with successful suggestion, but none of their techniques seem to be essential to it. Such rituals may seem to be placebos. Lozanov acknowledges that the rituals around the suggestion in his own system is also a placebo. So he's only in addition to that, it's also a placebo, but maintains that without such a placebo, people are unable or afraid to tap the reserve capacity of their brains. But is it here? But I guess somewhere above there. So basically, it's said something that related to emulate, right? So where was it? So there you go. Students do not focus their attention to try to remember the vocabulary, right? Students in Suggestopedia class retain more new vocabulary than those in ordinary classes. Teachers say, oh, did we answer that? We're left with another question number 35 as well. Prefer Suggestopedia to traditional approach to language teaching, right? No, we were. Where was it? So it was also saying that follow class students are stimulated, blah blah blah. Suggestopedia methods that they devoted entirely to class. All right. It's said teachers introduces them to material to be covered. We missed it, I guess, somewhere. Make no attempts. Careful prepared for language learning. Okay, once again, the approach is indirect. So the teacher's task is to assist the students to apply what they have learned consciously. And in doing so, I guess I'm gonna read the latter ones. But maintains that without such a placebo, people are unable to afraid blah blah blah. Like any place, it must be dispensed with the authority to be effective, just as doctor calls the full power of autocratic suggestion by insisting that the patient make precisely this white capsule? Hmm. Oh. Oh, there we go. I found it. I was just literally searching for the other areas. I just somehow my eyes went through such part. There you go. It says that few teachers are able to emulate the spectacular results of Lozanov and his associates. I'm actually different. Can I change the color? I think I'm gonna choose let's say this green color. We can perhaps attribute mediocre results to an inadequate placebo effect, but the question statement is saying that teachers say they prefer. It is not. It is not saying that they prefer. But it is saying that. I mean, there's no reference to what teachers prefer, but it is just saying that it partly works. So therefore, I think it's not, since it's not referring to what is their preference. I would just literally would be a not given. So students in suggested class will retain more vocabulary than those in ordinary classes, right? Okay. And we remember that 100%. They said the difference from conventional teaching is that the evidence that students can learn more. They can learn 1,000 new words of a foreign language during a suggested session, as well as grammar and idiom. So students in suggested class retain more of a new vocabulary than those in ordinary classes. That is the answer. True. And now we're left with summary completion. So summary completion, there are two types. The type number one is when we just literally put the words found from the passage to these blank spaces, right? However, we also have a different approach. Not really a different approach, but a different type. And in this type, we are actually going to find the answers, and we're going to see which from these words are more suitable. So Suggestipedia uses a less direct method of suggestion than other techniques such as hypnosis. However, Lozanov admits that a certain amount of something is necessary in order to convince students. Certain amount of something is necessary, even if this is just a something. All right. Furthermore, if this method is to succeed, teachers must follow a set of procedure. Teachers must set procedures. Although Lozanov's method has been quite something, the results of most other teachers using this method have been okay. I believe it was somewhere around here where we started, right? While Suggestipedia has gained, all right. I guess so. I guess this is pretty tricky, to be honest. Let's just read first part over here. Lozanov acknowledged that the ritual surrounding suggestion in his own system is a placebo, but maintains that without such a placebo, people are unable or afraid to tap the reserve capacity of their brains. So there we go. We have first part over here. So Lozanov acknowledged that the ritual surrounding suggestion in his own system is a placebo, but maintains that without such a placebo, people are unable or afraid to tap the reserve capacity of their brains. Like any placebo, it must be dispensed with authority to be effective. So this means that the ritual is necessary. So basically, do we have a ritual? Yes, there we go. We have a ritual. We're gonna put F over here and say ritual. And question number 38. On the other hand, the ritual is also a placebo. He mentions that like any placebo, it must be dispensed with authority to be effective, just as the doctor calls on the full power of autocratic suggestion by insisting that the patient takes precisely this white capsule precisely 3 times a day before meals. Lozanov is categoric in insisting that Suggestipedia session must be conducted exactly in the manner designated by trained and accredited Suggestipedia teachers. So therefore, I think that even if this is just so I'm gonna remove that over here. I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually going to remove it. Oops, sorry for that. We actually misclicked. And F, ritual and placebo. So there we go. Even if this is just a placebo, so I'm gonna put H, placebo. 39. Furthermore, if the method is to succeed, teachers must follow a set of procedures. Although Lozanov's method has been quite something, the results of most of the teachers using this method have been something else as well. So while Psyche has gained some notoriety through success in teaching of modern languages, teachers are able to emulate the spectacular results of Lozanov and his associates. So let's read that. Okay, so while Psyche has gained more notoriety through blah blah blah, so it is, in this, Lozanov and his associates, this means that although Lozanov's method is successful, the results obtained by most of the teachers using his method have not been very good or very spectacular, right? So I would say that it was very good. So there we go. We have well-known. K for well-known, or refer as an American pronunciation, well-known and unspectacular. Most of there we go. Because look at this, it is saying that while Psyche has gained more notoriety, it has been famous in a the definition behind the word notoriety, it sometimes means that it is quite famous in a way that it is famous in a way that it has some bad ways to it. However, through success in teaching of modern languages, few teachers are able, blah blah blah. We can perhaps say that attribute mediocre results to an inadequate placebo. Students have not developed the appropriate mindset. They are not motivated to learn this through this new method. They do not have enough faith, and they do not see it as a real teaching. And on top of that, they seem to not. It seems that it doesn't work. They have learned to believe this is not essential to learning. So basically, 39 is well known, and G, which is unspectacular. How do you spell that? Spectacular. There you go, guys. We basically answered to all the questions from the very first until the end. So question number 40 was the concluding. So I'm gonna remove G as well. G and well known, which is K. So there you go, guys. If you have any questions, you can just literally leave them in the comments down below. Make sure to like it if you'd obviously found this tutorial, and maybe step-by-step approach or walkthrough series as quite handy or helpful for you. In the description below the video, you will find I'm linked to my platform where I share the vocabularies covered in each series from the passage, obviously. So yeah, there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.